And welcome into Poke the Bear episode 45. 45.
Pedro Martinez episode.
Yeah, the Pedro Martinez, the Aaron Johnson episode. This is all about Aaron Johnson. I've actually, now it's taken me 45 episodes to get into this, where I look up, because 44 I knew, 43 I knew, 42 I knew. Most of these but 45 I was like, damn, who was the last Bruin to wear number 45? So I actually looked it up. It was Joe Morrow. Last Bruin to wear 45. This
Bruins legend Joe Morrow.
Actually, the longest tenured Bruin with 45 before Johnson and Aaron Joe Morrow was Mark Stewart.
Yeah,
it was Mark Stewart, 2007 or 6 to 2011. So, noted enforcer, left shot defensive Mark Stewart. When the Bruins needed a top 4 left shot defenseman, they should have called Mark Stewart.
I know.
But
it was a bit of an oversight on their part, but
would it have taken less than a 3rd round pick to get Mark Stewart?
True.
In 2021. This is true.
You can't argue with the logic, Evan.
These are facts the media won't report.
Yes.
But by the way, that's Conor and Evan Marinofski. If you don't know, hope you guys are all doing well. So the Bruins know their second round opponent. They don't know when they're going to play yet. Now, again, this is being recorded Thursday. So we're going to assume this is going to start Saturday. We're going to assume it doesn't really matter. The start time of this doesn't really affect anything we're about to say. So it's not like, on Saturday nights when it's 7 p.m. and there's no rain, the Bruins are, it's like the Tim Kirkton stats.
Yes.
There's none of that. It's whatever. How's your week been?
Evan, it's been swell. Been doing working on a lot of previews. Obviously, we went into it expecting either or of the Islanders or Penguins. On Bruins beat, we talked about kind of who you would prefer, and I kind of mentioned that, Pittsburgh, Jarry's not great, but, they still got a pretty high, if they're playing up to their level, they got a very high ceiling. I like to redact that. Maybe I was on a little bit of a heater, but I was trying to get it. Yeah, I was getting a little bit too bold there, but I was telling you before we started recording, I was like physically pained watching Jarry in that series. I mean, it's not like that Pittsburgh team was like destined to be a one and done. That was a good Pittsburgh team, and for a team that could be like probably one of the last hurrahs of that core in place, to have a promising team undone by dog shit goaltending, like horrible goaltending. That's a brutal break for them. I mean, he was dreadful in that series. And again, if you're the Bruins, you probably look at that series of like, all right, well, yeah, Pittsburgh's got some skill of their own. They can score, but we're going to hang 4 or 5 goals a night on Jarry easily, right? The way they're playing right now, if not more, right? Like, I mean,
yeah.
So yeah, it's not a tough break for the Bruins, because I still think they're favored in this series against the Islanders, which we're going to talk about. But looking at that series, it's kind of like how we went into Washington and we mapped out right away a very easy matchup, right? Or a mismatch that the Bruins were going to get goals on whoever Washington was going to roll out there, whether it's Samsonov or Anderson or Vanacek. Pittsburgh is going to be an even worse matchup, right, in terms of just what they were going to roll out there. You get the Islanders, who, again, may not have as high of a ceiling as the Penguins, but damn, like, you're in much better hands, whether it's Sorokin or Varlamov, in terms of what you have out there. So, maybe they're not as dynamic, but I expect we're going to see quite a few 1-goal nail biters and games dragging into overtime as these go on. So
I just did a quick Twitter search of Tristan Jarry just to see the stat from Wednesday night, where it was like expected goals against 0.09 and then actual
like
goals
5. It's so shocking that it's almost impressive that someone can let up that many shit opportunities end up in the back of the net.
And his glove is so bad. See, the funny thing is, you hear, we obviously don't get to watch every game. The average, most fans don't watch every game, or even outside of like their fandoms, except for Spokesy, who somehow watches every game that's like going on at once. But that's okay. I gotta respect it, especially the Wild, which he was right on, by the way. And he's gonna will them to a Game 7 win. I can feel it. But you hear a lot of narratives around the league. The Leafs aren't that good. You hear like different little things from different parts of the league, but you don't get to really see it a lot, whether it be because they're not on nationally, or, you're just busy with life, or the Bruins are on at that same time. You just see the tweets, and you don't really see like too much of it. You see the stats, obviously, which are pretty telling, but you don't physically see it. You don't see the full package. And I think one of the funny parts of this Penguin series was like, you knew going in, Jarry wasn't that great, right? Like you knew he was definitely going to have to be really like, I think someone said going into the series, as long as he doesn't lose the many games, the Penguins will be all right. And then you actually watched every game of that series and it was like, holy crap, he is awful. And I loved Pete Blackburn's tweet of me watching Tristan Jarry, and it was Wes McCauley saying he's unable to play his position. I was like, that's perfect. But it really goes, and it goes back to this, and we've said this before, for the Bruins fans who really bitch about Rask, watch these other teams, because the Penguins were a good team. They're a good, that's not a bad team. And the other part of it, and you've said this all year, was you have Jeff Carter scoring a bunch of goals. You have like Cody Ceci and Mike Matheson playing like really well. And you have all these guys who are typically not doing so hot or are supposed to be on the back end of their careers, some not even in the NHL, who are playing like a Stanley Cup contender. And then you have that in net. Like I was thinking this morning, it would almost be like what was the biggest weak link of the Bruins this year? Most of the year was probably like Jakub Zboril, right? Like you have Jakub Zboril back on D, third pairing guy. Some nights he was up on the first pairing because of injuries and stuff. But it was annoying for people. It was kind of an eyesore, right? Like he had tough time getting out of his own zone, couldn't defend the front of the net well. Like there were all little weak things that people get annoyed with. Imagine if that was in net. Imagine if every part of that was then in the net. That is Tristan Jarry, and that is why you could see Rask and be like, maybe you should have stopped that, but at least it's not Tristan Jarry.
Yes. That's like ultimate. That's the ultimate like level to weigh all of the goalie against. At least you're not Tristan Jarry level. It's like the scene in Moneyball with Brad Pitt, where he's like, there's 10 layers of shit, and there's Tristan Jarry. I mean, yeah, like I just picture like what Pittsburgh fans are looking at now, and like putting it in the perspective of the Bruins of like, if you didn't have Rask, or Rask was playing at that level of squandering one of the last good chances you had. No, not saying that Pittsburgh was going to go on a crazy run, but they were good, man. Like they were a good team. They were a team that were going to
number one seed in the East.
Yeah, they were a team that was going to give you some problems if you just had a stable guy in net, and that wasn't the case. So to have it, I mean, again, not a shocking revelation, but you need good goaltending and get far in the playoffs. But even competent goaltending, I mean, just giving up games off of just dreadful play. So, but again, that's why Pittsburgh is out, and that's why the Islanders, even though they may not be the most thrilling product on the ice, that's why they're moving on.
I mean, he literally gave away a game in game 5. Like gave it away. Just here's the puck, score on me. And that's the thing. And it's infuriating to see. Even for other, like, as you said, for other teams, squandering last chances and things of that sort. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. I saw a tweet today. It was like, imagine what the Penguins could have got if they traded Matt Murray after the 2 cups. Like you could have gotten so much. And so I think they low-key expected that going into this year when Murray went to Ottawa. I think they expected like, oh, Tristan Jarry will step up, but he's not going to be amazing, but he'll be good enough to get us deep in the playoffs. And I think they kind of thought the same about DeSmith, who was out, because I think it was Max Legacy on the bench last night. Or so it was just, I mean, that was a debacle. And again, if the Bruins could have played the Penguins, if you could play Tristan Jarry, like that's why I tweeted if the Islanders, if the best matchup is Islanders with Tristan Jarry in net, that would be a very safe bet. So the Islanders are the team the Bruins will play in the second round. Had a little bit of tough time with them in the early part of the regular season, won their last 3 after the trade deadline. Again, I almost consider this Bruins team after the deadline. I don't even really consider the Bruins before the trade deadline. It's like the fake Bruins, some of the Providence Bruins in a sense. Now I get the real
the Marlboro Bruins.
The Marlboro Bruins. After April 12th, it was, new team, brand new team, which by the way, it stinks. Well, not stinks. It's a good thing. See that a year ago today, we would have killed for all the content we would have had right now, because we have the playoffs. We also have Taylor Hall's comments that he made to Emily Kaplan at ESPN. But I want to discuss the Islanders first, and then maybe we can save the Hall comments or talk about them in a little while. No surprise. I don't think they were like a surprise.
Right.
Summed up, he just wanted to. He expressed he wants to be here past like 2 years.
Really?
And I don't think the holdup has never been him. It's the Bruins. That's Sweeney. That's the holdup. Getting him to say anything is gonna be the tough thing. But the Islanders. So, what are your initial thoughts and impressions going into this series?
Yeah, I mean, I guess bottom line, I still think the Bruins should be favored in this matchup. You look at the mismatches that the Bruins had against the Capitals and what they would have had against the Penguins. They're not as drastic as they are with the Islanders. It's not like they've got a black hole in net um, with whether it's Sorokin or Varlamov. I imagine it's going to be Sorokin now, but even if, let's say, Sorokin comes back to earth from what he was against Pittsburgh and Varlamov is healthy, he's not a bad backup plan, right? I think he had like a 9.4 save percentage against Boston in 7 games. So he was great against Boston during the regular season. So you already got kind of a slimmer margin of error in terms of what you're going up against in net. And again, it's not like the Islanders are, what they're going to bring, right? They're going to, pack the neutral zone. They're going to put, probably 3 guys on the blue line, try to limit how many clean entries you have, limit rush chances. So it's going to be a lot of, trying to find that open lane or just dumping the puck in and trying to, be the first guy in there. So not riveting hockey by any means, but plenty of teams have used it in the past to go very far in the playoffs, right? So, but you kind of look at the overall way that the team is set up, and whether it's goaltending, whether it's defense, whether it's offense, especially, the Bruins are just better in every area there. Now, does that mean that, the Bruins going to average 5 goals a night? No, of course not. Not when they've got a much more structured defense and a better tandem in net. But you kind of look at the way these two teams match up. And I think what people are probably, people are focusing on the Bruins trying to get past the Islanders defense, but you also have to look at, the Islanders scored a bunch of goals, but it was against Tristan Jarry. Like, Tuukka Rask is much better than Tristan
No,
Jarry.
he's not.
Yeah,
No, he's not.
Of course.
Jarry's less money. It doesn't equate.
But like you look at Rask, right? And even regardless of how well Rask looked in that first round, he's done very, very well against the Islanders in the past. I think he's 19-7-1 with like a 9.36 save percentage against the Islanders in his career. Pretty good. So you look at that, and I think this is going to be a series where, Rask is going to have to be your best player, which is par for the course for most series, right? But I think especially in this one where you're going to have, I think, a lot of 2-1 games or 3-2 or, a tied game going into the third. Again, the Capitals, the Islanders are not a high flying offense, but they're opportunistic. They like to counter rush if you get a turnover in the neutral zone. So I think Rask has to be obviously locked in to get him past this opponent. But you kind of just go down the line of how they match up in all regards. The margin is not as drastic, again, as it is with another team they'd be going up against, but the Bruins should have the edge in all those areas, right? They have a better offense. It remains to be seen how the Islanders, even with their structure, are going to stop both the Bergeron and Krejci lines. I mean, I think the Krejci line, especially Hall, is going to be key for this series. I think he's due for a monster series. You look at defense, Islanders aren't flashy, but you can't overlook like how good Pelican, that top pairing is. But Bruins also have a great deep pair as well with McAvoy leading the charge. And again, Sorokin and Varlamov, very good, but Rask is better. So again, may not be the most riveting brand of hockey, but the Bruins, if they play to their level, should be on the right side of the scoreboard for most of these games, even if maybe they're going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Taylor Hall. I think he's going to be so big with the zone entries
yes.
For that line, especially. And Krejci as well, kind of navigating through the neutral zone like he normally does, slowing the game down, hitting Taylor Hall in stride. I think that's going to be a big one. That it feels like that line's going to be big in this series. I just have a weird feeling that might be the case. I looked up the numbers for Bergeron against all 4, or Bergeron's line against all 4 lines the Islanders roll out. And they're good. They were good from this year. Nothing jumped off the page. I mean, they had a 68.75 Corsi 4 percentage against the Barzal line. That was the only number that really stood out to me. They didn't really get that much time against the Barzal line. I think they mainly played Brock Nelson's line this season. They spent the most time against them. But yeah, I don't. This is going to be a close series. I don't think this is going to be but in terms of games, I don't, or score in the games. This series could go 4, could go 5. Obviously, could go 6 or 7. Well, technically, it could go any of those.
You could.
Actually. It's Captain Obvious Evan here. But I mean, score wise, It's going to be close. It's going to be low scoring, unlike the Penguin series where it would have been like, 6-5 and high flying offense games. But yeah, I don't see any area where the Bruins have or kind of, where the Islanders have the upper hand. I don't see any glaring weaknesses that they have going into the series. I think this is a series that the Bruins should win. I don't think that this is one maybe the Islanders building might be louder. Maybe that's the one. I mean, they seem pretty rowdy in game 6. I don't see any other area where I'm like, oh shoot, the Bruins are really gonna have to crack down on this, because even with their offensive lines, there's no overpowering line. It's not like the Islanders have a clear number one line that, they don't have a Bergeron line or even really a Krejci line. The Krejci line's number one on most teams.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I don't see any big area that the Bruins should be super concerned about.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're an opportunistic team, but you look at, obviously you got to watch out for Barzal. Obviously, ever heard of him?
Yes.
We're going to deal with it. I
Yeah,
had to get it out of the way now. Let's get it out of the way now before.
Boom, get it all out. Get everything out.
But you also look at, how much of a loss I think Lee was to them. The fact that you don't have him on that line now. I think Komarov is on that top line, which is a little bit unorthodox, right? So, but that second line they have with Beauvillier and Nelson and Bailey is
Beauvillier is good. Beauvillier is very good.
I think that second line is probably their best overall line in terms of just like consistently, hemming the puck in, of countering on those rushes once they get turnovers in the neutral zone. That's a line that can really get you. But again, it's one of those things where the Bruins should have the matchups, but also Barry Trotz is a good coach and he likes those matchups and he likes grinding the game down to a halt. So it's not going to be like, if they were playing the Penguins, you probably would have had a lot of Bergeron versus Crosby, which Bergeron pants that line in the regular season. I think they outscored Crosby 4-0 during regular season. I could very well see Trotz keeping either Pajot's line or that fourth line of Cizikas and Clutterbuck and those guys against Bergeron, try to neutralize them. I imagine they're going to do that for one of those two lines because you got to deal with Krejci and Hall as well. So whether that's I feel like for them it's going to be trying to neutralize those two lines with their checking units, as opposed to trying to match fire with fire. And hopefully for them, I bet their game plan is seeing if the Beauvillier Nelson line can get land punches against kind of lesser matchups there. But that, again, Barry Trotz is a good coach. He keeps it simple in terms of especially their neutral zone structure, but they're a team that will grind you down, and then it's 1-1 game and you're driving yourself crazy, and all of a sudden there's a turnover in the neutral zone. They got numbers down the other way. Barzal sets up a guy for a nice one-timer, and you're scratching your head, right? That's kind of how Islanders play. Thrilling? No, but it works.
You mentioned the checking lines going against those top two lines of the Bruins. You think about it. If that Barzal line was to go against the Bergeron line for 7 games, they get killed.
Yeah.
Killed. It wouldn't even be close. And that's why I think as you said, you're going to have to put up Pajot or Cizikas against those top two lines if you're Trotz. And again, they only have 3 of those 7 games at home. So you only get those 3 games to have that matchup that you'd like. So yeah, I don't see a huge area with that. I also think the other thing is with this team, this team on paper, if you gave this to another coach, I don't know if they're here right now. I think a lot of this team's success is Barry Trotz. It's the systems. As you said, it's stifling teams in the neutral zone. It's packing it in. It's doing all those little things to make it really simple, but very hard to get to the middle and very hard to enter the O-zone. And, it's interesting that makes that big of a difference, that's a huge thing. And that is for them. And that's sustained them. Even when they lost, like right after they lost to Veras, they had this stuff and they still had the same success. People forget they were in the Eastern Conference Final last year. And the year before that, they were in the second round. And they're consistently good. And that's the thing. And I think a lot of it goes back to Trotz, is just how good of a coach he is and how smart. He's probably the best all around coach in the league. I would say.
So. Yeah.
Given year out with this roster,
even the body of work.
With the year before this was the Capitals who randomly just didn't want him back. Was that the thing they want to pay him? So they have Todd Reardon.
Yeah, it was like I think he technically resigned, right? I think it was a technical I formally resigned, but it was more like a throwing the birds up, I think is what it was. But yeah,
I'll make sure to screen grab that.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Yeah, I knew that was coming. But you look at just the way the Islanders are structured. Yeah, it's what he's done for that team has been monumental. As you said, most franchises use a guy like Tavares, and you kind of look at not spare pots, right? Like they've got good players, sprinkled throughout their lineup, but to lose a franchise guy like Tavares and run it back with the success they've had now, obviously Barzal developing to the player he has, Pelech, those guys doing very well. That helps out a lot, but you just look at the system he put in place. The results speak for themselves, man. I mean, they gave Tampa a pretty good test for quite a few of those games. They were frustrating them, which if Tampa, a team that can make offense out of nothing in a hurry, runs into fits, you're gonna expect some of that during this year. I think the Bruins will still be able to land their punches, but there's gonna be a couple of games I think where the Bruins are gonna have like 25 shots on goal, and people are going to be like, why aren't they shooting more? It's like, all right, well, they're running into bodies of the blue line. They're trying to, or they're losing pucks off of dumping them in. So it's going to be kind of one of those ones you kind of land the punch as well you can, but the Bruins at least have the personnel that when those opportunities are there, they have guys that can bury them.
Oh yeah, Martian versus Komarov, by the way, that's gonna be an interesting matchup. Just giving off history. And the other thing is, I think the series is gonna end in Game 7 when it's gonna be a 3-on-1. It's gonna be DeBrusk, Zboril, and Senyshyn against Barzal. Somehow that takes place. It happens. It's a 3-on-1. It's gonna go Zboril to DeBrusk to Senyshyn, who taps it in, and the Bruins win the 2015 draft, putting the Barzal stuff to bed. And there it is. It's over. The Bruins did it. No one can complain about not having Barzal anymore. That's how the series is going to end. I'm telling you right now.
Well, even if that happens, there's Islanders fans who will still bring up every single time, or Bruins fans. Bruins fans will talk about it more. I tweeted that the meme of Koepka yesterday of like people mentioning
I saw that,
and like someone replied and like rattled off the name DeBrusk, Senyshyn, and Zboril, but like it was like a radio caller that just took to Twitter because all the names were spelled drastically wrong too. I forgot what it was, but it was like the most typical like Mike from Quincy like response on Twitter to it. So we're gonna hit that. I mean, Barzal is gonna score like a highlight reel goal or something at some point in this series. So again, we'll get it out of the way now. We try not to talk about this as the series goes on. So hopefully we only have 1 week of this to talk about Barzal and what.
Also, Senyshyn and Zboril probably won't even see the ice in the series. So
again, we would hope that something again would have to go drastically wrong if that's the case.
Yeah, I know the Barzal stuff. I actually kind of for some reason forgot about all that until I saw your meme, and I said, he's right. That's what actually is going to be talked about quite a bit. Because that was for a while, like Barzal was scoring against the Bruins, and it was, oh look, they could have had him. And for a while, I was like, you're right. And then it just got to the point where it was consistent. Like, yep, yeah, they could have.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, they could have had him. They could have. We know. So now comes the time we've all been waiting for. Predictions. So you are hot. You got the first one, which I wouldn't even say you're 1-0. It's like you're in some ways 4-0. Like I feel like it's like winning, getting at one series right is more than like 1 point. It's like 4. That's a big thing to do. We should count it for like how many games you're off and who you got picking right, but you can pick the whole thing. Bruins and 5 over the Caps. You did it. So I will let you go first. What is your pick?
Yeah, it's not, I think, as bold as before, but I'm going to go Bruins in 6. I think they're maybe not far away is too strong, but I think in every area, the Bruins are the better team. I just think the way the Islanders are built and their structure, you're going to have like a 2-1 loss, or you're going to have a game that goes into overtime where it's a flip of the coin, where the Islanders can extend the series. But if everyone is playing to their capability, if that top 6 is playing like they did at the end of the Washington series, if you're getting a timely goal or two from Coyle and DeBrusk, if Hall especially is playing a big role in breaking through that neutral zone trap that the Islanders roll out, and if Rask is how he was in that first round, which you hope he can continue that going forward, I think the Bruins just every matchup favors them in terms of how you map out this series. So I'm going to go Bruins in 6. I just think that there's no really weak spot. It's not like the Islanders have an area that you're dreading, like going into the Capital Series. You're like, all right, Bruins going to score their goals, but if they get on if they spend so much time in the penalty box, they're going to pay for it. Ended up not happening. the Bruins PK was fantastic in that series, but it's not like the Islanders have this secret weapon, unless the only thing is if, Sorokin or Varlamov just become unconscious, right? If they go on a crazy run, and they start stealing a couple of games, then you kind of raise the alarms a little bit. But I think you just look up and down the roster. The Bruins should have the clear edge in multiple areas.
I'm disappointed in your prediction.
I know.
It's the same. It's the same as mine. Bruins in 6, and I know I that was the same one I had last series, but I do feel that way. I think this is a 6-game series. Bruins are going to win it. Bruins have been the hotter team down the stretch. We went over the numbers on Bruins beat. I know the Islanders are coming off a nice series win over the Penguins, but I just think the Bruins have more firepower. I think if everything goes right, which everything is trending upward, nothing's really trending down with the Bruins. Everyone's kind of getting better. I mean, obviously Rask is the obvious one, but the top line is getting better and better. The Krejci line is getting better. The Coyle line is starting to take shape, and the fourth line looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. So if that's, and by the way, defensively, everything looks pretty good. Clifton's on the up. McAvoy's on the up. Grzelcyk, no one's sucking. Everything's good. So I just think with that, maybe you'll see them a little slow in game 1 because of the layoff, but I do think that ultimately that's going to be a 6-game series that the Bruins win. I do. And again, I want to be bold, but I don't think this is a bold series. I think if they played the Penguins, you could be bold. You could say, oh, Bruins in 4.
I would have gone Bruins in 4. If somehow they won, if somehow Pittsburgh won, I was going to go Bruins. I was going to do Bruins in 3. Because Jarry was so bad. Jarry is such a horrible goalie.
But yeah, no, that would have been a bold thing, or Penguins in 7 or something like that. I don't know how that would have happened, but I don't know how Tristan Jarry holds up for 7 games, but crazier things have happened. Actually, maybe they haven't. Maybe that might be the craziest thing that would have ever taken place ever. But that is it. That is it for today's Poke the Bear, episode 45. Before I let you go, Connor, is there anything that the people can look forward to over at BSJ?
Yeah, whether the games start on Saturday and Monday, we're going to have a full preview, written preview that's going to be complementing this. That will drop probably the morning of whenever game 1 is. So you can find that over at bostonsportsjournal.com. So subscribe there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do that at ConnorRyan_93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofski. You Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your day.